So right off the bat, I'll say this. You'll notice there's a couple fights not on the list. Robbie and Rory. Great moment at the end of the 4th, great finish in the 5th, but they were getting booed the first, 3 rounds or something. Not a great entire fight. Jones and Gustafsson. Probably should have made the list, but the decision was kind of bullshit, and because of that, we'll call it number 11. Great fight, though. Griffin and Bonner, Islam and Volk, Weili Zhang and Joanna. You can't fit them all into a top 10. So with that being said, let's get started. Sometimes a badass moment will turn a bad fight good. Hello, Robbie and Rory. It's nice to see you again. And other times, a badass moment will turn a great fight into an all-time classic. Adding to the mythos of this fight is the fact Max planned out that final exchange when it went the distance. That's why he put the pressure on him right before the final exchange. He figured having Gaethje gasping for air right before the firefight would sway things in his favor. A calculated firefight, if you will. And as a result, the greatest knockout in MMA history. Hindsight 2020, I think this was the fight that cemented Max Holloway as having the greatest chin in MMA history. That man got hit with everything and the kitchen sink from Dustin Poirier. And he was still hunting down a finishing sequence to the final bell.
You have to fucking shoot it 4 times and then beat it with a fucking cinder block before it dies.
People remember this fight as a domination because of the first 2 rounds, but Dustin literally won 48-47 on all 3 cards. All the meanwhile, this fight was everything you could expect from watching these two. Insane cardio, relentless pace, power punching versus volume striking, and then Dustin finally getting his chance to break out. It just felt like a perfect moment in time. This is everything you want in a heavyweight fight. 2 big dudes that want to scrap. Mark Hunt, the king of the walkaway KO, versus Bigfoot, the living embodiment of gigantism. You could easily make the argument this is the greatest heavyweight fight of all time. I mean, I'm a big Hunto fan, and Bigfoot Silva's big as fuck, so this fight was a perfect storm. Every time I hear Hunt Silva won, I think of Mark's blood-stained hair. It's a fight that also gives you a full scope of what you're really watching. It holds a spot near and dear to my heart, and for that reason, it's number 8. I could watch this fight over and over, and I have. Stylistically, you just know Dana was chomping at the bit for this one. One dude with a scramble-based style and the best cardio in MMA history, versus another dude with a taekwondo-based style and cage attacks. Both with elite jiu-jitsu, both with a crowd-centered style that gets better when the people get into it. There was no way in hell this fight wouldn't be fire. Tony came back from a 9-month injury in 4 months, which might be one of the most ridiculous athletic feats I've ever seen. The fight was a war, a superhuman feat, and a moment in time, all in one.
I'm just thankful for this fight right here, right now.
Okay, if you like footwork, this fight is for you. Cruz versus the Cruz impersonator. Outside of some flyweight fights nobody watched, this might have more footwork than any fight ever. It's a blast to watch, especially knowing about Dom losing years of his career to injuries. 5 rounds of technical striking versus whatever the hell Dominic does. 2 of the best coaches in MMA battle it out, and it culminates with the greatest return in sports history. I'm a big Cruz fan, so of course I'm going to say that, but really, it is true. Most athletes aren't the same after tearing their knee 1 time. Cruz did it 3 goddamn times, and still out-footworked a TJ Dillashaw full of EPO. If you're looking for a single fight to give someone to make them a fight fan, it's tough to find a better example than Gaethje Chandler. 2 dudes that want to bang. Pause.
I do. Let me bang. I do let you bang.
This might be the most CTE between 2 fighters in human history, up until the record was broken by Diaz and Masvidal.
CTE tweaking, the CTE taking over.
This is also the fight that showcased just how much better Justin's boxing had gotten. Dude really went from a tornado to a cerebral assassin. I mean, he picked Chandler apart for large sections of this fight. I feel like at a certain point, Chandler realized he wasn't gonna win, but it was fun to see him pull a Diaz and just fuck around for the home stretch. This is a bittersweet fight for me. I mean, on one hand, it's a great ground and pound performance with an excellent response to adversity. It's not just the ending, I genuinely enjoy watching this fight. It's a moment in MMA history that will live on forever, and it might legitimately be the best submission our sport has ever seen. On the other hand, Chael Sonnen had promised his dying father that he would be a world champion. And every time I remember he gets caught with 2 minutes left in the fight, it hurts my soul just a little bit. UFC 117 was the first event I ever watched live, sitting in my buddy's backyard with the stream being projected on the side of the house. I still remember Joe's legendary, "Is it too early for Chael to start celebrating?"
I mean, is it too early for Chael to start celebrating?
Yes, Joe. Yes, it was. This used to be my favorite fight of all time, but in the last decade or so, there have been 3 fights that I love just that little bit more. This is actually my wife's favorite fight, and she's not even a fight fan. This fight also has one of the most brutal 10-second sequences you'll come across in the UFC.
Oh my God! You're in real trouble!
My God. This fight took years off both guys' careers. Rock'em Sock'em Robots come to mind when I watch this fight. But at a baseline level, it's 2 perennial contenders, super talented, battling it out for their chance to ascend. I think this is a fight that you could tell one of, if not both guys, would never come back the same. I'm grateful this fight happened, hell I watch it back every couple of months to this day, but this is definitely not a fight for the faint of heart. See Gaethje and Chandler. If you're looking for a fight to get a non-fan into the sport, this is another one that it's hard to go wrong with. Randy Couture 2 Glover Teixeira versus Tony Ferguson impersonator Yuri Prohaska. The OG versus the Bushido Code. The old guy versus the samurai. I can keep going. This is another fight where there legitimately isn't a boring moment across 25 minutes, and it has everything you could want. High tempo, hard shots, scrambles on the ground that are legitimately fun to watch. Yuri Prohaska doing that fire dance he calls striking, and 2 guys willing to tear each other to pieces for that belt. And with the end being what it is, Glover Teixeira winning on all 3 cards, only to be caught with a last-second submission without enough gas left in the tank to fight out of it. It sits firmly at 2nd place, with only one fight being just that little bit better. If you asked a writer from Hollywood to pen a suspenseful MMA fight, this is the fight he would put together. Every single round had something different going for it. Round 1, Conor demolishes Nate, showing the levels in striking acumen. Round 2, Conor drops Nate twice, winning the round, but he's noticeably fading, and Nate looks like he just went for a light jog.
1-1?
No, it's definitely 2-0 Conor, but right now that doesn't feel like it matters. Round 3, Conor looks as good as done. Nate puts him up against the cage and tees off on him, showing how hilariously better his cardio is than Conor, especially at a weight class 25 pounds heavier than McGregor was used to. But Conor, having learned his mistakes in the first clash with Nate, does a much better job defending and bouncing the shots off his shoulders. He's able to weather the storm and get back to his corner, where John Kavanagh says this:
"You're winning the clinch every time. If your back's against the fence, hands up, they're hitting your arms. You can slip and catch them on your arms. They're slaps. You can instigate the clinch and just lean on them and get your breath. Slip left hand is there every time."
Conor comes out in the 4th with a second wind, picking his shots and countering Nate well.
Conor re-energized here.
Eking out his 3rd round and effectively the fight. But round 5, Nate comes back and keeps wearing Conor down. Conor gets some good counter strikes in, but Nate doesn't give a shit. And in the perfect example of what if there was a round 6 or what if there were 30 more seconds, Diaz gets a takedown with 5 seconds left that wins him round 5, but does not win him the fight. A perfect back and forth 5-round dogfight, with Conor showing he can endure adversity inside the cage. And with their trilogy still up in the air, I guess we'll have to see if their long-awaited 3rd chapter comes to fruition. I may sound like a Brendan Schaub with all this Conor ball washing, but I don't care. In fact, I'm gonna go watch it back right the hell now.